Hello and welcome to European UFOs. I'm your host Sebastian, and as always, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to leave a review and share it on social media. It's your support that helps the show grow and reach more listeners. Also, if you want to support me in keeping the show ad-free, then please go to buymeacoffee.com. I truly appreciate all contributions. Today, we have a special guest, Joachim Dekkers, the founder of UAP Coalition Netherlands. Joachim's interest in UAP began in 2017 after reading the now famous New York Times article about US Navy pilots encountering UAP. This piqued his curiosity and led him to explore similar cases in Europe. Eventually, he formed a coalition focused on UAP, particularly from the perspective of professionals in law enforcement, aviation, and the military. In our conversation, we dive into Joachim's background, how he started the UAP Coalition Netherlands, and his mission to remove the stigma around UAP experiences. We also talk about his push for serious research and cooperation with government bodies, the coalition's work with European institutions, the importance of flight safety, and their efforts to improve UAP reporting across Europe are key topics we cover. Overall, this episode offers a fascinating look at how a personal ambition can evolve into a full-scale movement aimed at fostering transparency and policy change in the realm of UAP. Hello, Joachim. Welcome to European UFOs. How are you doing?
Great. Thanks, Sebastian. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, it's really lovely to have you, even on what is a very gloomy autumn day in Berlin. But so definitely nice to talk about UFOs and
Absolutely.
what you're doing today. Could you give the listeners an idea of who you are, what your background is, and most importantly, what got you interested in the topic of UAP?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Joachim Dekkers. And I have a background in the automotive sector, but throughout my life, my parents and my grandparents taught me that it's important to help other people. So I've been doing a lot of volunteer work, and I studied international business and North American studies, and that's a little bit about myself.
And with that background, how did you get interested in UAP? Was it just by coincidence? Was it something that had interested you for a very long time?
Yeah, this is actually quite an interesting question. So I wasn't interested in the topic at all. The only thing I knew about it was, the movies that came out or TV series. And then, I just kept an open mind, didn't think about it, just enjoyed what I was watching most of the time. But what got me really interested was the fact that I'm interested in geopolitics as well. So I was reading in 2017, I was reading the New York Times article about Commander Fravor, Commander Dietrich, and their experience with the Tic Tac UAP. And so I started reading the article and I was like, okay, so here we have people, professionals, trained observers. I mean, the United States government spends a lot of money on their training. They fly in jets that are, close to $100 million per jet. They see something that they cannot explain. Then they come back to their ship and they want to report it. And, within, like Commander Fravor said, within seconds, news like this spreads within their organization. And people started making fun of that. X-Files tunes and movies like Independence Day and all these things. And, the only thing that they wanted to do was just report something that they could not explain, that their weapons systems officers saw, and, that radar picked up, other sensor platforms. So why is this? And so for me, what got my heart starting to pound was the fact that they were not being taken seriously. So for me, the fact that they saw something that they couldn't explain, for some other people that's really interesting, and also for me it's interesting. But the most important thing was for me was like, okay, so what's going on here? Why do we not take these trained observers seriously? So what I did was I started looking more into the topic, and I found more stigma. Then I started looking in the Netherlands. Are there trained observers here as well in this country who might have saw something that they couldn't explain? And that was the case. And I started looking in the European Union as well. Same situation. Yeah, so that's what got me interested in the topic, because I wanted to, I want to help people. I want to help other people who, uh, other people are not helping.
And I think it's very interesting that the 2017 article really prompted your interest in the topic. You're actually my first guest who said this was the case. I think all the others either had a pre-existing interest also or whatever. But this is really fascinating, because you always hear about that 2017 was a breakthrough point in this topic. And you, I think, are a very good example for this. So take us a bit further then. So you had this interest in UAP through the article. So it was it triggered you to look at this more seriously. You wanted to give it an altruistic angle to help people. How did UAP Coalition Netherlands then come about?
Yeah, so what happened was I just felt that I needed to do something for these professionals who experience something that I cannot explain. I mean, we're all adults. We need to be able to speak about this without having, Hollywood movies in our mind or whatever. I mean, we're all adults, and this situation, especially because what happened with Commander Fravor and Dietrich, the UAP was spotted and also witnessed by other sensor platforms. So that was, that's a compelling case. So what I did was I started looking, can I do something about this? And I soon found out that there were other people like me, but everybody was an island. Everybody was doing things by themselves. Now, and if you truly want to achieve something, and especially in government, you need to get together, form a group of people. And so I started expanding or finding a team to work with. And I just came up with a name, UAP Coalition Netherlands, because I first wanted to focus on the Netherlands only. I thought, yeah, although it's a small country, it's going to be, as a volunteer, a big marathon to run. So let's see how far we can get. So I started talking to other people who were interested in the topic, and I told them about my ID. And then, some of them said, "Look, we want to join." And yeah, that's how the coalition was formed.
And this was last year or already a couple of years ago? When did you set it up?
So from 2017, when I got interested, it took me a few years just to get to know the topic more, because 80 I had to catch up on 80 years of information, and I'm still trying to catch up. That's why I'm grateful that some of the team members that are in the coalition are like walking libraries of Alexandria, as I like to call them, because if I have a question, I just call them, and they have all this information immediately available, while I'm still sometimes floating in the dark, on a certain topic. But that's the beautiful thing about the coalition, is that everybody has their own little expertise, which they, in which we come together.
Cool. Could you tell us a bit more about the team and how it is set up? Do you have experts from different fields, and how do they contribute to the overall mission?
Yeah, so what I do with every organization that I start or help is basically I make sure that this topic is multidisciplinary. So we need to have people not only being able to think inside their own box, but also outside of the box. We have, so we meet a lot, we speak a lot to each other because everybody is able to contribute. And, some people have insights that some other people don't. So currently we have, as you can see on our website, officially we have 7 volunteers with 3 ambassadors. I will tell you a little bit more about the ambassador program that I started in a little bit. But there are also volunteers which are behind the scenes, people who do not want to have their face public due to their work or whatever, because as you know, there's still some stigma around the topic, although it's already starting to dissolve. Everybody's working hard on that. I mean, so of course, because we're a non-profit NGO, we have a special tax status within the Dutch government. We're officially recognized by the European Union. We're we've been recognized, and we have a EU transparency register number. So yeah, we have to have an official chairman, we have to have a treasurer, we have to have a secretary, we have to have a board, we have to have statutes, bylaws, we have all kinds of regulations. We're also big advocates for good governance. So we have a good governance set of regulations, and you can find all these on our website. Yeah. So, is there anything you want to know specifically about a team member that interests you, or?
Yeah, so I think we're probably going to get to that later, but I was quite intrigued by your colleagues Andre's presentation at the European Parliament earlier this year. I think that was fantastic, but we might get into that later, or hopefully
absolutely.
will. Yeah. Yes, so I think it's very important to perhaps at this point also outline what the objectives of UAP Coalition Netherlands are, because you are not a typical how can I say this, ufological research group, to put it that way, right? So I think you are more, and that kind of, in my opinion, also makes you unique, is that you're focusing on the political spectrum of this and how you can perhaps, but I'll give the word over to you, what the main objective is.
Yeah, so we have several goals. Basically, what we try to do is try to promote support, research, awareness, cooperation, and regulation on unidentified anomalous phenomena. The thing is, if we want to do serious scientific research, that will take a lot of funding. And we're a volunteer organization, we're non-profit. We exist only through donations from others, which is not a lot. And so we fund most of all the activities we do ourselves. So the foundation that we first want to take care of is remove the stigma as much as possible. Let's be able to talk about this topic in an adult way, in a serious matter. Then let's have the decision makers and politicians get involved, and let's have some regulations to improve flight safety. Let's have some regulations in place, or pilot programs for research. And then let's have the people with the scientific backgrounds, who are a lot smarter than I am on that field. Let them do all the research, but let's build a foundation through raising awareness, starting cooperations, promoting research and support on the topic.
Yes, and I think so. I can easily imagine how one can create awareness in the general public, through social media, etc. But I think what you're doing is, in a sense, a lot more challenging, because you're also trying to raise awareness amongst the government. So how do you go about doing this? Were there meetings with the Dutch government, for instance, where you pitched this topic, or?
Yeah, so like I said before, first our focus was on the Netherlands. But if you say, if you speak to any country within the European Union, you're already working in the European Union as well. So everything is so much intertwined. There are laws from the European Union which actually transcend national laws of individual countries within the European Union. So it's a cooperation between between the European Union and individual nations. So what we did was, and your audience can also find this on our website, because it's important to be transparent about this. We just tried to do as much as we could, have meetings with the Dutch government. So, for example, I was in the beginning of when we started, and our statutes weren't even officially notarized. We were already, or I was already in House of Representatives asking questions on the floor about UAP, and we had, we every time there's something significant, we send out press releases. So we had a few Dutch news or national Dutch newspapers write about UAP, write about our coalition, and then we also spoke to the Dutch Ministry of Infrastructure and Water, which is responsible for airspace safety, flight safety. So we spoke to them. We speak to them. We speak to Dutch Ministry of Defense. And actually, in the beginning of this year, we had a really interesting conversation with both ministries at the same time. Now, that doesn't happen a lot. It was quite unique. And the good thing is that, we spoke for more than 2 hours on UAP. So we gave them big presentation on history and science, flight safety, airspace security, stigma. We also brought some witnesses, and the representatives from both ministries were really, really intrigued, really respectful, and good things happened during and after that meeting. So yeah, we've been doing a lot in the Netherlands.
Was there any indication that, for instance, the Ministry of Defense was already well briefed on this issue, or was it completely new territory for them? What was your impression? Because you would assume that, UAP traversing sensitive airspace would be on the radar, so to speak, of the Ministry of Defense. What was your impression?
An interesting thing to mention is that there's a case in the Netherlands which is not very well known. It's the Soesterberg Air Base case. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yes, it's the one with the big triangle, right?
Yeah. So for your audience, in February 1979, there was an active air base in the Netherlands, Dutch air base, and there was an American side. They rented it or whatever. They shared it, and 12 Dutch military personnel saw three lights in the shape of a triangle slowly hover over the entire airbase, and of course this left a really big impact on their lives. And the Dutch Air Force did an investigation. They said it was a temperature inversion, but the 12 military men, they didn't believe the Air Force investigation team. They felt like they were being stigmatized. When they went home, some of them even got laughed at by their own family. So it was the way they were treated was absolutely horrible. And your audience, actually, one of our team members, Bram Rosa, he made a documentary on the Soesterberg case. It's showing in cinemas in the Netherlands, and I'm not sure when there's trailer on YouTube with English subtitles. I don't have the link available, but I'm sure that when people look for Soesterberg case or Bram Rosa, that they can find, or perhaps you can do something on your channel for, hey, perhaps even an interview with him, because the case is a lot more in depth. But anyway, so we spoke to the Ministry of Defense about that case, and they knew that happened. They didn't say much about it, but we conveyed the message that the way that they treated these military men back then, in those days, is absolutely not done anymore nowadays. So that's something that we're working on to improve just culture within the armed forces, within the aviation world, as you might call it, and also within law enforcement, police. The just culture topic is very important regarding UAP and removing the stigma.
Mm-hmm. And is there any known or official attempt to record UAP by the government in the Netherlands? Or is this just something that either we don't know if they do it or they probably just don't do it?
Not that we are aware of, but in the Netherlands, so the Netherlands bought the F-35 fighter planes. Actually, last week, or 2 weeks ago, we said goodbye to all F-16s. Beautiful. I saw them coming over our house, and it was amazing to see. But anyway, so we have the F-35s now. If you purchase F-35s, you also need to upgrade the ground radar. So that's what the Netherlands is doing. We're upgrading our radar systems, and yeah, perhaps they will start seeing more UAP now. I know that UAP are being seen, but I don't have any numbers on that. This is all unofficial word of mouth information.
So I think reporting is probably one of the most important things with UAP and UFOs. And destigmatizing the topic, obviously, is removing one barrier towards reporting. But if setting up a reporting structure is part of your objectives, how would you go about doing this? I mean, I know you haven't tackled this in practice yet, but how, if you had the funds available now, how would you set up a reporting structure for UAP?
That's a really good question and a very difficult one to answer. The topic is multidisciplinary. So where would you even start? So what we're first doing is we're having conversations, meetings with the European Aviation Safety Agency, EASA. We had a meeting with them and with the European Commission, because a former member of parliament, Mr. Francisco Guerrero, he asked a few parliamentary questions to the European Commission earlier this year. And the interesting thing was that the European Commission answered, and they said that it's already possible to report a UAP under a certain category. Now, so we were surprised by that answer, because none of the ambassadors that we have who are pilots, or pilots who have been reporting their sightings to us, knew of this category. So what we did was we had a sit down with everybody, and we started going through the categories, and we found that there's no such category. So it's misinformation by the European Commission. So I contacted the European Commission and said, look, you gave an answer, but the answer is incorrect. It's something that we need to improve. So can we have a conversation? So basically what I did was I went to Brussels, sat down with the European Commission and EASA, a representative from them, and I said, look, this category doesn't exist. So in light of flight safety and the fact that other countries are saying, UAP are a flight safety risk, we need to improve the reporting system that you already have, because there is already a general reporting system within the European Union on any occurrence. So if a pilot, if a bird comes too close to an airplane, they can report. And there are many, 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 many more categories like this. So we said, look, let's implement unidentified anomalous phenomena in this category system that you already have, and let's start there, because then we have a already recognized reporting system by the European Union, which is used by the rest of the countries in the European Union, which is known by pilots and organizations that they fly for. So let's do that. But unfortunately, they said that they didn't want to do that, and they told us, look, you need to go to the Transport Committee of the European Parliament, and they need to tell us, we want you to implement a UAP category. So this is basically on the flight safety issue. So your question is, it's a very good question, but it's difficult for me to answer because at the moment we still do not know when and how exactly a category will be implemented. Because if we have our own reporting system from the UAP Coalition Netherlands, we just simply don't have the funding right now to have, to get the people to work on this. So we first want to lay a base, a foundation, and then grow from there.
Extending the set of available categories, I think, is a superb approach, because it also comes with a certain standardization and official signature. So if there
Absolutely.
is a category for UAP,
Absolutely.
you do have it available for analysis. And just out of curiosity, what happens with the data from the current categories? So, for instance, let's say an aviation expert, a pilot, reports a near miss with a bird. Is that then registered on a country level, or is there a EU database for such incidents?
The military and the police is a whole different topic. So if we stick to the aviation side regarding your question, this is how it works. So an aviation professional experienced something that they want to report. The way it works is they first report it within their own organization. There are safety managers working for all the big airlines and the smaller airlines as well. This is just simply mandatory, and they receive the reports. Now, the safety manager, he or she decides whether it's important enough to push it up to a higher level. So does it stay within the company itself, or do we bump it up to a national level, or do we even report it to the European system? And some reports are, will just remain within the organization. Most of them, they get to a national level and international level. Now, so far, the European Union has received 3 million reports since they started using the European Union reporting system. Now, and I might be off by one or two, but there are around 60 which are absolutely unknowns. So they have absolutely no idea what they are. And that information is not public. So EASA, they have a report every year on occurrences, and whatnot. But the specifics are not publicly available, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So we only have the numbers.
But I think that's already quite an interesting subset. Would be great to
absolutely
get your hands on it. Just for our American listeners, do you know if is there a possibility within Europe to file FOIA requests, or is that's probably then also on a national level as opposed to a European level, right?
There is in the European Union, all the member states they have freedom of information acts, if you call it for the American listeners. So you can file a FOIA on national level, but it's also on European level.
That makes things a lot easier then. Can we talk a bit about the flight safety aspect of all of this? Because I do realize that this is an angle and a particular position you're coming from. It's not only your organization that's coming from that angle, but also within the States and also on a European level. Why this particular angle? Could you just explain this to our listeners?
I don't exactly understand your question.
So air safety is an aspect that has been talked about jointly with UAP, and there is an implicit idea of UAP being potentially a threat, if we want to phrase it from a military perspective, or simply a safety issue from an aviation perspective. So I was wondering, were there any cases that prompted this sort of angle on perspective on the topic, or is it framed, or was it caused by something else?
No, it's a good question. So basically, these angles that we're using for the coalition and to improve is because we spoke to the witnesses, and those witnesses are experts in their field. And we asked them, look, so for example, the first pilot that I spoke to, I asked him and I said, look, how did it make you feel? And he said, well, I was, I lost concentration. I was completely focused on the object. The maneuvers it made were a flight safety risk at that moment. And when you speak to more aviation professionals, they almost all of them, they say the same thing. So then the conclusion for us is flight safety issue. Military wise, all of them, what they say, look, this is a threat, a possible threat. Most of them say it's a possible threat, but the way that they think is, we need to mitigate that. We need to have protocols in place or guidelines or something, to make sure that we're being able to report it and then being able to study it. And with the police, exactly the same thing. And then in the United States, with all the things happening there, in all the official writings, they mention flight safety risk. They mention possible national security threat. Everybody's basically saying the same thing. So the angles that we are using are not confined to the Netherlands, European Union, or the United States. No, it's global.
And in your discussions you're currently having with various government bodies, is this also something they are sympathetic towards? Are they appreciative of the fact that it might be a threat or flight safety issue?
Absolutely. And the way they listen to the witnesses, the way they listen to us, the way they ask, the questions that they ask, the way they speak to us, all of them consider this a serious topic. And it's important to know for the listeners, there has not been one moment, not 1 second, when I speak to anybody from politicians to decision makers to, it doesn't matter who I speak to, I'm always taken seriously. The witnesses are always being treated with respect. Yeah, that was something that really made, it gives me a good feeling to know that we're finally out of that 80-year making fun of situation. At least from my experience. I don't know what others,
Well, thanks for sharing. And I think it's very helpful to get an inside perspective from someone who has actually had those conversations, because, just receiving your information on UAP from social media, etc., does come with its own set of problems. And there are often weird dichotomies that are set up. But it's very helpful to get that sort of inside perspective. Joachim, earlier you mentioned your ambassador program. Perhaps you could talk a bit about this, because I think it's also unique in a sense.
Yeah. So it's important for professionals in trained observers in aviation, armed forces and police to be able to speak to somebody. And what's important to mention for your audience is, why are we just focusing on these groups of people? The fact, it's basically, there is already reporting, a group of people reporting in the who have a reporting system in place in the Netherlands, and they focus on mostly civilians. But we wanted to do this for just professionals. Also, we have a small team. We don't have the budget, and sometimes it's possible to receive additional information, like radar information. So that's why we're focusing on professionals. So what we found was that, and this is what almost all of them say, is, so for example, let's take a pilot. So a pilot flies from country A to country B, and they arrive in country B and they're waiting in this lounge for aviation professionals. And they start talking to each other while having, a cup of coffee or a beer or whatever. And, and then the stories come. And, and that's when we found out that most of them, they have stories to tell. They have experiences with UAP and they speak to each other. Same in military. Some of these guys, they're really close. They work in teams or platoons or whatever, and it's a tight group of people, and they talk to each other, like friends, like brothers, sisters, and the same with police. But so we thought, okay, so how do we get more of these professionals to open up? And I said, well, let's start an ambassador program. Let's have professionals who want to come forward. Let's ask them if they want to be part of the ambassador program, so they will be able. So if somebody wants to report something that they've seen and they don't want to report it within their organization because there hasn't been, any information on the topic within the organization, or they're afraid to talk about it because somebody else got ridiculed or whatever. Let's have other people, like-minded people in the same profession. Let's have them speak to each other. So we have a few ambassadors on our website. We have Christian, Taco, and Nick. Christian and Taco are both really experienced pilots, and they said, look, we want to have our face on the website. We want to be public. People can ask our numbers. They can email us, because we feel it's important that this topic needs to be spoken about and people need to be able to speak to us in confidence. So, and Nick is a veteran. He has a lot of experience in the Dutch armed forces. And so he's doing that for our for the armed forces in general in Netherlands and European Union, or if anybody else wants to contact him, that's fine as well. And there are ambassadors who are silent ambassadors, so they are behind the scenes within their own organization, because we're not talking about organizations that are only 1,000 people. No, aviation, armed force, police, they're gigantic organizations with a lot of people. So the more ambassadors we have, the better. And we're really grateful for those people that they want to help out, and they see the importance of this topic.
And what happens if let's say you are a pilot and you reach out to one of the ambassadors, so you can share your story? And is there also some sort of ambassador group then where you can kind of regularly exchange or support each other? Is there something like that in place, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a contact form on our website. A person writes an email. All those emails first come to me. They're not read by anybody else, so it stays confidential. And then if they say, look, we want to speak to an ambassador, then usually what they say is they already say, look, I want to speak to Taco or Christian or Nick or whoever. And then I just forward their email to them, and then they start the conversation. And yes, sometimes they want to stay confidential with one of our ambassadors. sometimes not. Of course, they have a group where they speak to each other, but some of them don't want to be in a group. They just want to share their story, and that's it. Yeah, and most of the time it's word of mouth. So we have the silent ambassadors, and they hear something, and then they say, look, we're part of UAP Coalition Netherlands. Did you know that blah 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 blah, and they introduce everybody and us. So
have you also had individuals from the military with potential high security clearance already come forward to you, or has it so far been mainly from the commercial aviation segment?
it's been a mix between aviation, armed forces, and police. Number one is aviation professionals. Two is armed forces. Three is police.
And through your conversations with veterans and pilots and so on, this also produces really interesting UAP data. Is there any attempt to informally record them somewhere, or has this not been implemented at this point?
Do you mean like a database system?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, what we do is we gather all the reports from witnesses. So yeah, and we have all the stories, and if it's recent, then we try to find out more. Is there other data available through the organizations that they are working for or that they have been working for.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that's going to make a really valid contribution to the topic in months, if not years, to come. I think one of the your greatest achievements, or the ambitions, was to bring the topic towards the EU Parliament earlier this year. Coincidentally, I actually had Eduardo Russo on last episode, so
Nice.
this makes a good sequence now.
Nice.
But we only briefly touched on the event, so it would be lovely if you could give us an overview of what happened in March and why it's so important.
Yeah, so what we do as a coalition, we try to reach as many members of parliament to get the topic spoken about, to have a dialogue on UAP, and to do all the things that we try to do, which I explained. So one of those members of parliament, former members of parliament, I must say, Francisco Guerrero, we met him last year for the first time, and he was intrigued. He was at that point in time the only one who wanted to come forward, saying, "Look, I need to do something with this topic. I want to help. We need to have need to have a serious conversation about this. We need to have serious scientific research being done, and we, as a European Union, we need to have something in place like some other countries have." So one of the things that we spoke to him about, and that said that one of his ideas was, so let's see if we can organize an event within the European Parliament. Are you able to assist in that? So of course, I said, yeah, sure. We'll be more than happy to help. So his team and we started setting this event. Yeah, and we invited some people. We made it possible for others to watch online. We invited a lot of members of parliament, decision makers, assistants, we had several people speaking during the event on several different topics. It was really interesting. Unfortunately, I was ill, so I couldn't come to the event itself. But my colleague Andre, he did a great job replacing me. Yeah, so it was a really interesting event. Actually, we have a special page on our website which shows what it was about, gives a summary on everything, on every presentation that was given. So we had Francisco, he did an introduction. We had Andre of our coalition who said something about UAP. Eduardo Russo. He spoke about the history. We had a Swedish astronomer, Dr. Beatrice Villaruel, who spoke, who gave a presentation. We had one of our ambassadors, Christian van Heist, who spoke about his own experiences. We had Ryan Graves from Americans for Safe Aerospace. He joined online and he gave a short or he gave a presentation. And we had a Q&A. There was somebody there from EASA, the Aviation Safety Agency in the European Union. Yeah, it was a historic event.
Yeah, it really was. And I think the experts from not only from different disciplines, but also with different perspectives on the topic you brought together there was really bringing it home that this is an important topic. So you had someone, senior academic there, Beatrice, and then also EU politicians all in the same room. I think that's just a very, very great setup. What was the aftermath of the event? Has anything of what you tried to achieve there already been discussed a bit further? Or are we still in this kind of limbo state where they've kind of recognized that this is important, but things take a long time in politics?
Yeah, good question. What basically the main goal of this event was to introduce UAP in an accessible way to members of parliament, other policymakers, and interested professionals, assistants within the European Union. There are, and even now there are still people who don't know anything about the topic. So we just wanted to have a easy access, introductory level conversation on the topic. And that has helped us because, the event was in March and then we had the elections a few months later. Then everybody goes on vacation, during the summer. So nothing happens in Brussels and for that matter in any governmental organization, politicians in this case, during the summer. So what we've started to witness now is that all the politicians are chosen, they're in their committees in the European Parliament. Everybody is settling in. We're now starting to make appointments with other members of Parliament. We always refer to the event in March. Some of them are aware, some of them are not, because of course they get so much. They have so much work. They receive so many emails and so many phone calls that it's impossible for them to keep track of everything that's going on. But the event is sure is helping us move forward. Yeah.
Excellent. I think this is really what we needed now to also bring it on a political level and raise awareness. Thanks a lot, Joachim. I think this was a really lovely overview, and we've learned a lot about UAP Coalition Netherlands. Perhaps before wrapping this up, could you give us an idea of what's on the agenda for you within the next few weeks or next few months? Are there any concrete deliverables you're working on?
Yeah. I don't know exactly when, but we were going to have several appointments with members of parliament. I'm in the process of making appointments with them. There's good contact. But like I said, everybody had to get settled in, new commissions, new tasks that they have. So we want to move forward with the aviation safety side, the flight safety side. We want to move forward with defense, European defense. There's a lot of, with Russia and Ukraine, and China also, all the tensions around the globe. The European Union is starting to focus more on itself regarding what do we need to do to defend the European Union. So military-wise, there's a lot of things happening, and we're trying to achieve awareness there as well, and build a foundation for just culture and reporting. There's also the European space law. So we gave feedback to the European Commission on the proposal of the European space law, which has not been signed yet. Supposedly that's going to happen beginning of next year. So we're probably going to have some stakeholder meetings as well. What else? It's busy. We're just trying to keep knocking on doors and trying to see if we can open doors. Also with media, having being guests on podcasts like yourself, and we're just going to keep on doing what we're doing. Something that I always say is this is not a sprint. It's a marathon. It's a very long marathon. I mean, most people have been running this marathon for 80 years. And I understand that, all of them are impatient. They want to move forward. But people have to understand that the vast majority of people in general have absolutely no idea about the topic, or they're not interested, or, and we just need to reach the right people to get the ball moving forward here in the European Union and in the Netherlands. And I hope that this podcast and this interview that we did will help interest other people and motivate other people in other European countries to do something similar that we are doing. And group together, get together, form a team, but do it in a formal way, an association or a foundation or whatever you want to do. And then, just talk to your government representatives, raise awareness there, because most people don't have no clue at all. And after that's done, the scientists can start looking into what's this, what is this, what are we dealing with, and they can receive funding. So I really hope that this interview will help motivate other people to do similar things that we're doing. And I'm always more than helpful. I'll if anybody has a question, feel free to contact me or members of my team. And if you need help setting up something or whatever, just reach out.
Perfect. That is a very very, very good keyword here, because how can people reach out to you? So obviously you have the website, which I will put in the description of this episode. You also have a great YouTube channel. But is the best way to contact you via the form on your website or per email?
Yeah, the best way is just use the contact, our email address. Just send us an email, and it doesn't matter. If even if there are trained observers listening right now and they have a story to tell, or they just want to let us know, look, we saw something that we cannot explain. Thank you for what you're doing, or whatever. It doesn't matter. Just feel free to contact us. We're more than happy to receive your email, your message, and to help out. If that's what the person wants. So yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Joachim, for being my guest today. Very, very valuable contribution to the field of UAP studies. And looking forward to hearing more from you and UAP Coalition Netherlands in the future. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Sebastian, for what you do and the possibility for me to be able to talk to you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.